I cancelled my own plans just to be there for a friend's big day, but when my turn came they didn't even call, and that was the day I learned that effort without reciprocation feels like betrayal. It started with Marcus's wedding. My best friend since college was getting married, and like always I dropped everything to be there for him. Cancelled my weekend plans with Sarah, my fiancée. Cancelled a work conference that could have led to a promotion. Flew across 3 states to be his best man cause that's what do for people, right? I planned his bachelor party. Coordinated with vendors. Wrote a speech that had grown men crying. I was there for every meltdown, every cold foot, every 2 a.m. phone call about wedding stress. I gave that wedding 6 months of the day was perfect. Marcus looked at me during the reception and said, I couldn't have done this without man. Or the brother I never had. I felt good, proud. Like all the effort meant something. Fast forward 8 months, Sarah and I set our wedding date. I was nervous, excited, overwhelmed. This was it. The woman I'd been with for 4 years was going to be my wife. We'd talked about kids, about growing old together, about building something real. I called Marcus first, voice shaking with excitement, told him we'd booked the venue. Asked if he'd be my best man like I'd been his. Oh man, that's the same weekend as Jessica's sister's engagement party. I already RSVP'd. Know how what is. I cancelled a career opportunity for wedding. I spent my savings on bachelor party. I rewrote vows at midnight because we're too stressed to think straight. But I said, no worries man. Totally understand. I called Dave next, my college roommate. The guy I'd helped move 4 times, lent money to when his startup failed, listened to him cry about 3 different breakups. Dude, I'm so broke right now. Between flights and hotels, I just can't swing it. This is the same Dave who'd somehow found money for a Vegas trip 2 weeks earlier. Posted all over social media about the suit he'd booked. One by one, they all had excuses. Tom had a work thing. Actually, Tom had a fishing trip he'd rather not cancel. Jake's kid had something. Jake's kid had a soccer game Jake had missed 12 times before, but suddenly this one was crucial. Sarah watched me make these calls. Watched my face fall with each rejection. Watched me pretend I was okay when inside I was crumbling. Maybe they're going through stuff, she said, ever the optimist. People get weird about commitments. But I knew better. I knew exactly what this was. This was me learning that loyalty is a one-way street. That being the guy who always shows doesn't mean anyone will show for. The worst part, I started looking at everything differently. Every memory I cherished felt, every friendship I'd invested in felt hollow. I began to wonder if Sarah was the same, if she was just comfortable with me. If she'd stick around when things got hard or find her own excuse to disappear. I started going out more, started accepting invitations to happy hours I'd normally skip to spend time with her. Started telling I needed to be more selfish, more independent, more like the friends who clearly valued themselves over me. That's when I met Chloe at a networking event. She was funny, confident, she laughed at my jokes and seemed genuinely interested in my stories. She didn't know about my wedding stress or my friend drama. To her, I wasn't the guy everyone forgot about. I was just interesting. We started texting. Innocent at first. Work stuff, then personal stuff, then longer conversations that stretched past midnight. Sarah would find me on my phone and ask who I was talking to and I'd lie. Just work stuff. But it felt important. Chloe made me feel valued in a way I'd forgotten was possible. When I told her about my friends bailing on my wedding, she was outraged on my behalf. That's terrible, she said. Deserves so much better. For the first time in months, someone was putting my feelings first. 3 weeks before the wedding, Chloe texted me 11 p.m. I know this is crazy, but I can't stop thinking about us. I know we're getting married, but I stared at that text for 20 minutes. Sarah was asleep next to me, completely trusting, completely unaware that I was about to cross a line that would destroy both our lives. I thought about Marcus, who couldn't be bothered to show for me. About Dave, who had money for Vegas but not for his friend's wedding. About all of them, living their selfish little lives while I bent over backward to be there for everyone else. I thought about how maybe I deserved to be selfish too. Maybe I deserved to feel wanted. Maybe I deserved to put first for once. I typed back, I've been thinking about too. And that was it. That was the moment I lit a match and it into my. Not because I was a monster. Not because I didn't love Sarah. But because I felt invisible, unappreciated, and convinced that everyone else was looking out for themselves while I was the only one playing by the rules. I could tell I came to my senses. That I deleted the text and confessed everything to Sarah. That I got therapy and worked through my issues like a mature. Instead, I made plans to meet Chloe the next day. I met Chloe at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory, I told. Just talk. Just getting this feeling out of my system so I could move on with my and marry Sarah like I was supposed to. But the moment she walked in, I knew I was lying to. She looked beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Like she could see right through all my justifications to the selfish man underneath. Came, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I shouldn't be here. But we talked for 3 hours. About my friends, about feeling invisible. About how marriage felt like this huge step I was taking alone. She listened in a way that made me feel heard, really heard, not judged, not dismissed, just understood. Give so much to everyone else, she said. When do get to receive something back? Never. I thought the answer was never. When she reached across the table and touched my hand, I didn't pull away. When she suggested we go somewhere private, I said yes. When she me in her car, I her back. I told it was just one moment of feeling wanted. Sarah would never know, and I'd end this before it went further. But I didn't end it. We started meeting twice a week. Coffee dates that turned into long drives. Long drives that turned into hotel rooms. Each time I swore it would be the last time. Each time, I found a new reason why I deserved this. Sarah was busy with wedding planning anyway. She barely noticed when I came home late or when I was distracted during dinner. She was living in this bubble of excitement about our future while I was systematically destroying it. The worst part wasn't the physical betrayal. It was how I started to resent Sarah for trusting me. How I began to see her happiness as naivety. How I convinced that if she really knew me, she'd realize she deserved better anyway. 2 weeks before the wedding, my mom called. Honey, I'm so proud of Sarah is perfect for. I hung and immediately drove to see Chloe. I can't do this anymore. I told her. But even as I said it, I was already reaching for her. Don't have to do anything, she whispered. We can figure it out after. After, like the wedding was just an inconvenient obstacle instead of a sacred promise to the woman who'd loved me unconditionally for 4 years. 1 week before the wedding, Sarah's sister Emma called me aside during the rehearsal dinner planning. Emma said, "Oh, grateful our whole family is that Sarah found. She's never been happier. Make her feel so secure, so loved. She trusts completely. Trusts completely." Those words should have snapped me back to reality. Should have made me confess everything and beg for forgiveness. Should have reminded me that I was about to promise this woman forever while actively betraying her. Instead, I felt trapped, cornered. Like everyone was expecting me to be this person I'd never actually been. This loyal, dependable guy who always did the right thing. Maybe I was never that guy. Maybe I'd just been pretending. And this thing with Chloe was who I really was underneath. The day before the wedding I met Chloe one last time. "After tomorrow everything changes," I said. "Does it have to? I'm getting married, Chloe. To someone who doesn't really know I know. The real. That feels things and wants things and doesn't just exist to make everyone else happy." She wasn't wrong. Sarah loved the version of me I presented to her. The reliable guy, the one who remembered anniversaries and brought her coffee in bed. But did she love the messy, selfish, complicated parts of me? Would she love me if she knew I was capable of this? "I could wait," Chloe said. "However long it takes for to figure out what really want." I should have said no. Should have said goodbye. Should have deleted her number and spent the rest of my being grateful for the bullet I'd dodged. Instead I said, "I don't know what I want anymore." "That's okay, don't have to know today." The wedding morning was perfect. Sunny but not hot, with a gentle breeze that made Sarah's dress flutter like something out of a fairy tale. She looked radiant, glowing, like she was living the best day of her entire. I stood at the altar watching her walk down the aisle, and all I could think about was Chloe's hands on my skin. About the secret phone in my jacket pocket with 17 unread messages. About the hotel keycard I hadn't thrown away. "Do Michael, take Sarah to be lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, forsaking all others until due part." Forsaking all others, I do, I said, and I meant it in that moment. I really did. But meaning it and living it turned out to be two very different things. The reception was everything Sarah had dreamed of. Her family toasted our future. My parents cried during our first dance. Even Marcus showed guilt-ridden and apologetic with some story about how he'd managed to rearrange things at the last minute. "I'm sorry I was weird about this," he said during the reception. "We're my brother. Of course I had to be here. Too little too late," but Sarah was so happy to see him that I played along. Let him give a speech about friendship and loyalty while I smiled and nodded and pretended I hadn't learned exactly what his friendship was worth. That night, in our hotel suite, Sarah curled against me. "We did it," she whispered. "We're married. Can't believe it." I held her and told her I loved her, and it wasn't even a lie. I did love her. I loved her desperately. But I also had Chloe's number saved in my phone under a name, and I was already planning when I could see her next. 3 days into our honeymoon in Italy, while Sarah napped on the beach, I texted Chloe. "I miss too. How's married?" It doesn't have to be. But it was complicated. Because every time Sarah looked at me with complete trust and adoration, I felt like every time she talked about our future kids or growing old together, I felt the weight of my deception crushing me. And every time I felt that weight, I ran back to Chloe. Because with her, I didn't have to be the perfect husband. I could just selfish man I was becoming. By our 6-month anniversary, I was living 2 completely separate lives. Husband by day, cheater by night. And somehow, impossibly, I'd convinced that both versions were real. That I could love Sarah and betray her simultaneously. That I could build a marriage on a foundation of lies and somehow make it work. But lies have a way of surfacing. And the bigger they are, the more damage they do when they finally. That was coming, I just didn't know it yet. The end came exactly 13 months after I said I do. Not from Sarah finding texts or catching me somewhere I shouldn't be. It came from my own stupidity and a pregnancy test. Chloe called me at work on a Tuesday morning, voice shaking. "We need to talk." Now, I knew. Before she said another word, I knew. The careful house of cards I'd built was about to collapse, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. She was 8 weeks along. 8 weeks of something that would make my betrayal permanent, visible, undeniable. 8 weeks of consequences I couldn't delete or explain away. "What do you want to do?" I asked, sitting in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking. "I want to keep it. I want us to be a family." A family while I was already married to someone else, while Sarah was at home that very moment probably planning dinner or wondering if we should start trying for kids soon. "Chloe, I can't leave Sarah. Not like this, not now." "Why not?" Or miserable with her said so. Had I said that? In those hotel rooms, in those stolen moments, had I convinced I was miserable? Had I rewritten my entire marriage to justify what I was doing? I never said I was miserable. Didn't have to say it. I can see it. Every time or with me, or more than I've ever been with her. But that wasn't true. The person I was with Chloe wasn't more. It was less. It was the worst version of the one who took what he wanted without thinking about who it would. I need time to think. How much time? Because this baby isn't gonna wait for to figure out point. I went home that night and Sarah was cooking dinner, humming some song from our wedding. She'd bought flowers for the table. She'd made my favorite meal. She looked when I walked in and smiled like I was the best thing that had ever happened to her. "How was day?" she asked, kissing me on the cheek. "Fine." I lied like I'd been lying for over a year. But this lie felt different. Heavier, final. 2 weeks later. "I can't do this alone," she said. "Either tell her, or I will." "Can't do that. Please, give me more time. I've given everything. I'm having baby, and I deserve more than being secret." She was right. She did deserve more. The baby deserved more. Everyone in my deserved better than what I was giving them. But instead of doing the right thing, I panicked. Tell her, I'll deny everything. I'll say we're lying, that are obsessed with me. I'll destroy reputation. The words came out of my mouth before I could stop them. Desperate words that turned me into someone I didn't recognize. Chloe stared at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. "We're not who I thought were. she said quietly. Neither I back because her felt easier than facing what I'd become. She left, and for 3 days I thought maybe I'd bought time. Maybe she'd disappear, handle things quietly, let me figure out how to. Sarah's sister Emma called me. We need to talk. Now come to my house. The drive to Emma's felt like driving to my own. When I got there, Sarah's car was in the driveway. So was her mom's. So was her dad's. They were all sitting in Emma's living room when I walked in. Sarah on the couch, face streaked with tears. Her parents looking at me like I was something they'd scraped off their shoe. Emma standing by the fireplace, holding a manila envelope. Sit down, Emma said. Sarah Gora couldn't even look at me. Just kept crying into a tissue while her mother rubbed her back. Woman came to see Sarah today, Emma said. Ate her work, told her some very interesting things about her husband's extracurricular activities. The room started spinning. Chloe had done it. She'd actually brought proof, Emma continued, pulling photos from the envelope. Pictures of me and Chloe at restaurants. Kissing in parking lots. A paper trail of my betrayal laid out like evidence in a trial. She also brought this, Emma said, holding an ultrasound photo. Sarah made a sound I'd never heard before. Not quite a scream, pure anguish-given voice. 13 months, Sarah whispered, finally looking at me. Our entire marriage has been a lie. I wanted to deny it. Wanted to say it wasn't what it looked like. Wanted to blame Chloe or temporary insanity or anything that would make this someone else's fault. But looking at Sarah's destroyed face, I couldn't do it anymore. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Sarah's dad stood. Sorry. Cheated on our daughter through entire engagement and marriage, got another woman pregnant and are sorry. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. Sarah said, her voice hollow. Every day for over a year, looked me in the eye and lied to me. Every time said loved me, every time we made plans for our future, every time we were intimate, were thinking about her. She wasn't wrong. Even when I was with Sarah, part of me was always thinking about Chloe. Planning when I could see her next, comparing them, living this double that had poisoned everything good between us. I do love, I said desperately. This thing with Chloe, it wasn't about love. It was about feeling unappreciated, feeling like everyone in my takes me for granted, so decided to take me for granted instead. Sarah stood and I'd never seen her look so strong. So done. Decided to throw away 4 years together because friends' feelings. When she put it like that, it sounded exactly as pathetic as it was. I want out of the house tonight. She said I want to take things and leave. I never want to see again. Sarah please. We can work through this. People do it all the time. Marriage counseling, therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. What it would take is a time machine, she said. What it would take is for to have been the man I thought I married instead of the man actually are. Her mom walked over and put her arm around Sarah. The divorce papers will be filed tomorrow, she said to me. Don't contact our daughter again. I looked around the room at these people who had welcomed me into their family, who had trusted me with their most precious person, who had celebrated my wedding like it was their own victory. Now they looked at me like I was a stranger. Worse than a stranger, like I was something dangerous they needed to protect Sarah from. Can I just say, no, Emma me off. Said enough, I've done enough. Just go. I went back to our house, to our perfect little house with the white picket fence and the garden Sarah had planted and the future we'd mapped out together. I packed 3 suitcases with clothes and toiletries and the few things that had been mine before we got together. Everything else belonged to I'd destroyed. As I was loading my car, our neighbor Mrs. Henderson came outside. Michael, is everything alright? News travels fast in small neighborhoods. By tomorrow everyone would know. The mailman, the grocery store clerks, the people at church. Everyone would know that I was the guy who cheated on his wife and got another woman pregnant. Just taking a little trip. I lied one more time. But Mrs. Henderson wasn't. She looked at my overstuffed suitcases, at the wedding photos I could see through the window still on our walls, at my face that probably looked as destroyed as I felt. That's a shame, she said, lovely girl. Yes, she was. She was lovely and trusting and devoted and deserving of so much better than what I'd given her. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Sarah kept the house, most of our savings, and all of our friends. I kept the shame, the guilt, and a child support payment for a baby I'd barely seen. Chloe had been right about one thing. I wasn't who she thought I was. But she wasn't who I thought she was either. When I finally left Sarah, she lost interest fast. Turned out she'd wanted the thrill of being the other woman more than she'd wanted me. Now I live alone in a studio apartment across town. I see my daughter every other weekend, and she looks at me like a stranger because that's essentially what I am to her. I missed her first steps because I was wallowing in self-pity. I missed her first words because I was too to answer close call. My friends from before, the ones whose abandonment started this whole mess, they sided with Sarah obviously. Marcus won't return my calls. Dave blocked me on social media. Tom sent me a text that just said, "Are not the man I thought were." He was right. None of them were who I thought they were, but I wasn't who I thought I was either. The worst part isn't the loneliness or the guilt, or even the knowledge that I destroyed the best thing in my over nothing. The worst part is that I can't blame anyone else anymore. Not my friends, not Chloe, not circumstances or bad luck or temporary insanity. Just me, just the choices I made one after another, until I'd built a prison out of my own selfishness. Sometimes I drive by our old house. Sarah still lives there, but she's not alone anymore. There's a different car in the driveway now. A man's jacket on the porch chair. Laughter coming from the backyard where we used to plan our future together. She's moved on. She's living the right way, just with someone else. Someone who probably appreciates what he has. Someone who doesn't mistake effort for entitlement or loyalty for weakness. Someone who isn't me. I ruined 3 leaves because I felt sorry for. Because I thought I deserved more than what I had, when what I had was everything. Now I know what I actually deserved, exactly what I got. And the saddest part, on the nights when I can't sleep, when the guilt is eating me alive, when I'm wondering how I became this person I don't recognize. I still miss her. I still love her. I still want her back. But some betrayals don't get do-overs and some people don't get second chances. Some people just get what they deserve.